Hi, I'm Simon from TestBuddy. TestBuddy is a tool that helps testers capture testing notes and share engaging test reports. Welcome to today's episode of Conversations on Exploratory Testing. And today I got to chat with Callum Akehurst-Ryan. Callum is a senior software tester at Improbable with over 13 years of experience across multiple domains. Now, I've had the privilege of working with Callum, and he is a fantastic exploratory tester. In today's conversation, we explore how charismatic testing is more important than ever. We discuss how to tailor your testing discoveries and information to suit the needs of your audience. Plus, we dive into some of the things Callum has done to inspire people to learn more about the benefits of exploratory testing. Callum, hello.
Hi there.
This is amazing that we get the opportunity to chat about exploratory testing. So I always enjoy our chats when we talk about testing, and particularly when we talk about exploratory testing. So it's amazing that we get to do this and we get to share it with others. So thank you, first of all.
Oh, not at all. No, it's always great to be able to talk to other people that know about exploratory testing, but also to share knowledge about what it is. Because I think it's still something, even though it's a type of testing that's been around, I think, since the 80s, that people are still very much like, what is this? How do we do it? So speaking to other practitioners of exploratory testing about the specifics and how to implement it is really cool.
That's awesome. And it is peculiar, isn't it, that for something that has been around for so long, that we're still, I guess, like being honest, facing some struggles when we work with some teams and we're trying to demonstrate the value of exploratory testing and really like how it helps teams kind of discover useful information and all the good stuff that comes with exploratory testing. And thinking back to some ideas that we shared like off this call about some things that we could discuss today, I wanted to dig into the concept of charismatic testing and how that's related to exploratory testing. So yeah, I'd love to hear more about charismatic testing.
Charismatic testing is effectively the concept of looking for the good in what you're building. So rather than saying, here are a load of risks, and I'm going to look for the bad in what I'm building, you look to see how your product has the it factor, how it feels good to use, how it looks good to use. You specifically look to point out everything that's specifically awesome about charisma. And by doing that, you can provide information back to your teams that's very different from your normal testing style. And that's really important, especially in times like now, when maybe you've just started a new team, maybe everything's over Zoom and people don't know what to expect from you as an exploratory tester. Maybe they're just expecting you to come onto a Zoom call and your only interaction with them is going to be, oh, I found this bug and this bug and this bug, and everything's very negative.
Yeah.
If you run something like charismatic testing and you run a charter and you say, okay, I'm going to explore this area of the front end with this browser or with charismatic testing heuristics to discover information about how awesome it feels to use this product. And you can come back and you can say, all right, I've specifically looked at this user journey or at this screen, and I loved the fact that all of the calls to action were really easy to find. It just felt good to flow through things. We had buttery scrolling on the carousels that just felt really smooth on my browser. I loved it. I loved everything about it. You're able to paint this picture to your developers that you've gone out of your way to find information that shows them what you do want from them. It shows them that you can pull in the same direction as them as well. So it's not here to go, I'm putting the brakes on this, don't release it. You're saying, we've worked towards getting this thing done by the end of our sprint, and it looks great. Like, this is good. And it would just help build that rapport with people. Like I said, especially when you're having conversations over Zoom, it builds that rapport to say, no, I can work with you. I'm here to support your work. I'm here to give you information about the product, not just the bad, not just the ugly, but the good. What have you done really well? Let's work on that, which I think is like so important right now.
It really is. And I love that approach. I absolutely love that approach. And I don't think it's done enough in all honesty. And to your point about it's more important than ever right now because we are all separated and things are tough, right? They really are. So to give others confidence in their work because they might be working solo, they might not be able to pair just because of constraints or that isn't how their teams are set up. It's really important to give that positive feedback. And I think what it demonstrates, to your point about bubbling up useful information, it really demonstrates that as an exploratory tester, we're not just there to find bugs. We're not just there to, as some folks refer to it as, like, break stuff, which of course we don't do. But revealing useful information is really powerful if that information can give confidence in people. And I don't think it's to say that we're like just sharing good stuff and that's that. And it's like, hey, everything's great. Let's go live. and we haven't sort of explored certain risks that do warrant us to discover information about those risks. Yet having conversations with developers about the decisions they've made and the positive decisions they made is really powerful stuff. And I once remember I worked at this place where I debriefed with a developer and I showed them my test report, and I just put, wherever there was some good stuff that I found, I put a little smiley face. And they were like, what are all these smiley faces? Like, they genuinely asked that question. And I was like, oh, this is all the good stuff you've done. So they got a snapshot straight away about the good stuff. And they were genuinely surprised. They were like, I'd never seen this before. Like, why are you telling me the good stuff? I'm like, well, I'm going to tell you the good stuff. Of course, I have found these bugs or these problems, and we can discuss them. But I just want to call out the good stuff that you've done first. And it really changed, and I think of this particular developer, it changed my relationship with them. That they just felt good about the conversation, and it made things a little bit easier. And it wasn't used in a way to make things easier. It was just out of like, well, why would I not be kind and share the good stuff that this person's done? Because they made effort. They've had to make some tough decisions, probably by themselves, and it was a great response, and it changed our relationship, and it was a very positive moment for us when we then continued to work together.
100%. I've had exactly the same situation. I was working with a developer who I was finding it quite challenging to work with at one point. Just they didn't understand the style of exploratory testing, what debriefing meant, or why we were there to help things. They were very TDD driven. They were very like red-green test or red-green develop with things. And they didn't understand that other than unit tests or automated tests, we could find more information. And I ran specifically a session across their code, not their code, one of the features they'd implemented. And in the stand-up, I said, look, I've run some testing over something that we've implemented, and I've got some information to provide back to you. Would it be okay to run a debrief and talk about things? He was like, yeah, and looked a bit nervous because obviously he's expecting that, right, here are the problems. And what I did is I had open on my screen one of my testing mind maps for my test notes. So very visually, you could see just all of these branches of tests that I'd run to show that there was this massive scope of testing, and all of them were colored green. All of them had ticks against them. And I just went, so as you can see from this, I've run hundreds of tests and absolutely everything looks good. Like, I've drilled into this and you have smashed it. Like, awesome stuff. Well done. Like, looking really good. Let's just push that. Let's get it into the main branch. And he was like, oh, and from then on, he actually then went on to wanting to pair to do some testing with me. He wanted my input into a lot more of the TDD cases. You know, we built a better rapport as a result of it. So it wasn't just talking about negatives. So especially if you're landing into a team, if it's a new team as well, like some of this stuff can be really powerful. And I think, because just to touch on something you said about building people up, if you've got a brand new team, you might not be the only new person in that team. And a lot of people, regardless of their seniority, might have imposter syndrome. So having somebody come along and say, do you know what? All the decisions you've made look really good. Like, I support this. Like, really well done. You know your stuff. Helps with breaking down that view of imposter syndrome. And especially because if you just come and you say, well, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, it's going to build that up. And during COVID times, to be honest, everyone's anxiety is at a 20, not just at a 10, but up there. So people are going to be looking for those little mistakes or feeling like their brains are melting because of like all of the distractions, all of the working from home, all of the anxiety of COVID. So anything that can help go, no, you're on the right track, you're doing this, we're doing this as a team, like, let's keep going, is going to help, I think.
Yeah, it really is. And that's so cool that happened to you as well. Kind of shared experience. It's wicked. It's a lovely feeling when it does happen, and I think it also. I can't think of a specific example where it had, where it eventually led to a whole team behaving in that way. But I can say for this particular team, it eventually got to a point where people weren't just looking for bugs. So others were feeling comfortable giving compliments to the work of others, which let's be honest, for some folks can be quite difficult. It can be hard to give someone a compliment. Sometimes it feels a bit weird and a bit strange, right? To give someone a compliment, and it does take effort. And I think it is a skill to develop, to be able to be kind. And I know that sounds really strange saying it out loud. Sorry, but I think it's kind of pushing ourselves a little bit to think, okay, if I have empathy and I step in the shoes of the other people that I am working with, what are their fears? What are their anxieties? What are they worried about? I won't ever know for sure or in detail, but I can do my best or I can make some assumptions, particularly as you described in the current times, that people are not actively looking for that feedback and may not feel confident asking for it. So I feel it's good that we can step forward and share that feedback. And thinking about, there have been some times in the past where I've had to ask permission before giving feedback. And it's quite subtle. I think the way I've done it in the past is say, hey, I found some good stuff. Do you want to hear about that first? Like ask, because they may not, some folks may not like to receive compliments, or on a one-to-one kind of non-asynchronous basis, it might feel a bit awkward that someone's like bigging that person up right in front of them, and they're like, I feel a bit weird. So asking that question, would you like to know about the good stuff I found, has helped in the past.
And with that, I found that with giving that good feedback as well, especially when you're speaking to engineering types, if you've got something that's like qualitative, if you've got something that's numeric or something that's evidence-based, so that's really strong because it helps. It's not just, I'm giving you an emotive-based compliment because that might be the bit that's uncomfortable, versus here are my test notes. And here is some evidence that showcases that this is working very well. Or here's some evidence. I've pulled in some psychology research, some marketing research about this front end piece. I've delved into the code and I've seen that this is working, in an optimum way. I've done some research to say there's no way that you could probably make this, code more optimized. I think that, knowing your persona of your customer, not just at a business level, but when talking to a developer, see those as your customers of your information that you're giving, is really strong, because you can say, I know that this developer prefers to receive compliments in a very mathematical way of evidence-based versus, or this one likes headlines, but emotive headlines of you smashed it, woo, or, anything. Partially, this is why I implemented using a mascot So I have Ramon the testing otter, TM. And when a developer does, or when anyone in my team does something well, I'll be like, oh, Ramon is like going to bring you this little beer, or Ramon's like says this is awesome. Because as well, making it cheesy helps people as well, because you're still giving that compliment. But again, the fact that it's one removed and that emotive thing seems to be taken away from it, that discomfort is taken away. So knowing who to do that to, who to make it funny to, who to make it cheesy to, who to make it very scientific to, and who to just give a genuine, heartfelt compliment, pat on the back kind of thing to, really helps as well. So it's like you have to build user personas for your other customers, which are the team, as opposed to your personas for your customers, your business's customers, yeah. That's a good thing. And that really feeds into, if I'm going to do charismatic testing, what information is needed for these people. Some people, and especially now, just want, no, I don't need distractions. I don't need to know anything other than, do I need to fix something?
Yeah.
And that's when you just go, okay, here's a bug report. But some people go, I need this boost. I need to know all these things. And I guess that you start to work these things out when you're laying out your stall and joining a team. So it's a really strong way to get into a team in the first place and build that rapport with people. But you also have to set out your stall and say, right, here's what exploratory testing is. I'm going to find information. The information I find is there to help us make decisions on the product. It's there to say, we're either going to say we want this to happen, or we don't want this to happen, or we need to make a change in the future. That's what I'm here to do. And I'm going to debrief, therefore, by showing you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And here's how I'm going to do it. And here's what a debrief is. And you have to sort of set that out initially for people to say, here's what I'm going to do. It's not then a shock to people when they start getting good information, or information about how things are awesome or how they've smashed it, as well as okay, I've seen this, but was this what we wanted to do in this situation?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that to that point of playing back what you just shared, that balance of understanding your personas within your team, your immediate team, and setting expectations with those various folks in your team. And that just takes time, right? And it takes like some mistakes or some misunderstandings and some direct conversations and some observation and sort of trying to work out what sort of information is useful to your audience. I love the way you frame that. That's a great way of framing it. That I think when we share the information of, say, I don't know, let's say it's a 45-minute exploratory testing session, that we need to know who our audience is. And perhaps I don't think that has to influence us when we're running the testing session. I think we can capture our notes in whatever way we find useful. It's when it comes to now I'm going to present you with a report, like either asynchronously and you can look at it whenever, or we're going to do this over a call, or at some point we can do this in person. And having that awareness of the personas within your team, that's a great way of framing it. And I think setting it up first of all with, here's what I can offer, and like I think that is applicable to anyone or any persona within a team, because I think it just sets an expectation. And I think the way we can test that is by running exploratory testing sessions, is by running debriefs, is actually demonstrating that value. And I've certainly found in my career where I can talk about it a lot, about what exploratory testing is, and then particularly how debriefing can work and why we debrief. I think I've noticed for the majority of people that I've worked with, it's only when I have actually gone through that process of a debrief a number of times with different folks within a team, that a team goes, okay, I get it. Like that example earlier on where that developer saw lots of smiley faces and they were like, okay, this is what part of it is. Okay, cool. It's those sort of light bulb moments for a team.
I think that's it with a lot of these things, to be honest, and possibly why exploratory testing is not understood so well, even within our own practice, our own discipline as testing. and sometimes it's like that chaotic thought of you just bug hunting. Because people and testers, we haven't seen a lot of examples of this. We can all talk about exploratory testing. We know that we want to explore the system, or that we want to have a structured way of exploring the system. But until you get in and do it, or pair with someone, or see the outputs, or see the values of it, it becomes really difficult to actually understand its benefit. And to really get the real benefit from it does mean persevering, drilling down, thinking about the personas of your developers, thinking about how to engage the people around you, the company, and the business practices that you have in place. If you're in an environment that just values bug reports, or just values, move, develop, I don't have time for information, or I don't have the right people in my team to make decisions at that level, to know when something's good or when something's bad, other than just it has failed, fix it. That's when we start to find that we're just bug hunting. We're doing a bug bash, because that's the only environment that we have. So we have to tailor to our environments. And again, a lot of companies don't know what exploratory testing is, or don't know the values that can be had from it, or haven't embedded people with that business view into their squads, teams, whatever you call them. And so we don't see those values being put forward. And it takes people coming in and going, I know what exploratory testing can give us. I know what charismatic testing is. I know what a debrief should look like, that shares the good as well as the bad, to actually change things. Because a business isn't from a top down suddenly going to go, we need to know what's good about this product. They're always going to see testers as they find the bugs. And we have to still bubble up, even now, what's good about things. So we have to start being really visible and vocal about things like charismatic testing, showing the good and why that's good, how that's useful. And I think now, during this pandemic, is the perfect time to be doing things like that, because people are thinking about mindfulness. People are thinking about how to be kind to each other, and ways of working that emphasize, the kindness of things. And I think now's a really good time to start doing this, really.
Absolutely. Makes me think about how, given kind of our connections with other testers in the testing community, how we can, perhaps share more of the charismatic approach, like beyond the testing community, like how we can embed ourselves into other developer communities, or UI UX communities, design communities, and kind of, I always struggle with that one, to kind of make that transition to, put forward talks in a community outside of the testing world, or write a blog post on a developer forum, for example. So I wondered if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I've actually done some of these things in Brilliant. The past. I've written a blog post called Why I'm Talking to Developers About Exploratory Testing, which was one thing, where I realized, like you were saying, that we need to make these things visible and show the value in what we're doing. You have to do these outreach programs effectively. So I ran the same training that I would give to graduates or junior or apprentice testers in exploratory testing, why we do it, how we share information. And I trained up a load of developers to say, here's how we can do things. Obviously, I did that because I want them to do it. And like any good tester, I want to be able to empower my team, champion things, and then Mary Poppins my way out of there and join a new team, because that's always the dream. But at the same time, I wanted to showcase, like, here's how we do things. I did it in a fun way. I did, first of all, I did a load of workshops for these things, how to make test notes, how to look for the good in things. I ran a load of smaller workshops where I brought in a load of toys and said, let's explore how we can use things in these toys in different ways, and make notes about them and see what's good about them, as well as like how they might not work, because a toy is a finished product anyway. I've run a couple of talks. I think you can find them on my LinkedIn profile, where I've been speaking to the BA community, because again, being able to provide information to BAs about these types of things and how to shape requirements and shape understanding really helps as well, because that's good for shift left. If you start embedding the idea of exploratory testing in or risk analysis early, that's a way of doing things. And as you well know, I've also publicly posted things about debriefing, what makes a good debrief. And that's not just something that's useful for testers, it's also good for developers and other team members, product owners, business analysts, customers, whatever, to know, oh, you can do this. You can find this information and share it. And another thing that I've also been doing, quite recently is running the demos at the end of a sprint. There's nothing like a tester to run your demo. We've seen the product, we know where all the pinch points are, but we also know what's good to show as well. So doing things like that, again, socializes and shows these things to people more than just your test community. And I think we can be quite insular. We all go to Test Bash, or we all read our own blogs, or we all get on Twitter with all the other testers and we talk to each other and we all go, exploratory testing, what a great idea. Debriefing, what a great idea. And it's that monoculture. It's that very view of we're all agreeing with each other. We've got that bubble. We all need to then take that and start putting it out there practically to the real world. So even if we can't get those talks in those sorts in those forums, what we can do is we can start infecting people with infecting people. That was a bad turn of phrase for now, wasn't it? We can start giving people those tools to start talking amongst their own communities about things. Within our companies, run these debriefs, train people on what they are, even if give them those skills so that then they can talk to other people about it. Or one good thing that might be that I've always wanted to do, but I haven't quite done it yet, is perhaps we could pair with developers to talk about the relationship between exploratory testing and development, and from both sides, what's good about either side of that debrief and how they found it interesting and useful and how we found it fulfilling and helpful as well. That's a good way. I bet Test Bash would love that. He says, pitching for ideas. Dear Test Bash, if you're watching this video, have an idea.
That's great.
But you know what I mean? Just putting things out there, like take it away from theory, I think is what I'm saying. Get to the practical. Like, too many of these conversations focus on the theory about things. Let's showcase the practical. Let's make case studies. Let's make white papers. Let's get in there and do it. And then have the people that we do it with give us that feedback or talk about it for us. I don't need to, be the person talking about, like, let's use charismatic testing. If instead I can have somebody that I've run it with to say, I loved charismatic testing and here's why. Things like that is just as powerful. So let's start moving away from the theory and proving how clever we are and take our ego out of it and move towards let's do it and empower other people to talk about it.
I love it. That's amazing. And those and the things that you have done that you've shared, which would be available in the description, of course. That's amazing, right? And I'm always impressed with how you will openly share about there's all these things that you can do, and this are the reasons why this is important, and here's some advice on this approach. It's great. It really is awesome. I feel that the opportunity to get feedback from I guess those that we're working with on I'll refer to it as like the receiving end of our debriefs or our test reports. That would make for a brilliant set of real life studies. Interviewing those engineers, like what it was like to work with an exploratory tester who is running, good debriefs with you, and turn that into whether it's like video interviews or blog posts or talks at conferences. I don't think I've seen or read or heard of anything like that out there. So that's let's see if we can make it happen.
And thank you again. I'm so keen to put stuff out there for people because, like I said, take your ego out of the equation with a lot of this. Like I think people know that I can do exploratory testing. So like I don't need to prove that and hoard that knowledge to myself. I would much rather put out there, help other people to do it. And selfishly, I mean, if more people are able to do exploratory testing and talk to more developers about exploratory testing and know how to interact with testers that can do exploratory testing, you know, roles that I take, or, you know, if the further I go in my career, there's going to be more people that I don't have to start at a baseline with this off, and I can build that up. So I'd much rather like it be spread wide and far so that everybody knows, like, oh, here's how testing is. It's the new normal all the way from the 1980s. It's time for these things to just become normal, so that we're not seen as these like pioneering forefront people that's doing something no one else is. That we all have this shared understanding of this is what it means, so that we can talk about it, not just talk about it, sorry, but do it on our day to day, because that's interesting. We always say that exploratory testing is the interesting part of testing rather than checking. We want to be able to do it, and it's fine to be able to talk about it. But those of us who are doing exploratory testing always end up in that sort of educating sort of mindset and not in the doing mindset half the time. So yeah, I'm definitely like, yeah, I've got to a point of I would like other people to just be able to do it, so that then I can do it, or I can practice it, I suppose.
Yeah, and it makes sense. It totally makes sense. And I guess I often reflect on like, why aren't there more people sharing their practical examples? You know, it's something I certainly need to do more of, like running a session and videoing it and putting it out there, saying, I'm just going to take you through me running an exploratory testing session for this particular thing. Here are my notes, and here's what I'm exploring. I'm verbalizing what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, the choices I'm making. Makes me wonder if we could find some folks who'd be up for like doing a live debrief. So, and actually like maybe record that conversation to sort of show what a debrief is like for real. And thinking to your point about making things practical, perhaps that kind of thing would be useful. I do wonder what makes some people, particularly those that are good at exploratory testing, not share their experiences and not share, you know, whether it's like a blog post or a video or a talk. I wonder what might stop them from sharing. Maybe we don't have to answer that now, but yeah, if you do have some thoughts on that, I'm curious to hear.
I know that in the past, the things that stopped me sharing things was imposter syndrome. That I assumed that because I could do it, other people obviously could do it. And knowing that there are people out there, especially who are quite vocal and visible in the community. Exploratory testing has some very visible, very high profile people talking about things. And it made me think, oh, well, what have I got to contribute to this? But I think that if you write stuff or if you share practical knowledge about stuff, it will help someone. And so by just going, no, actually, this is practical, useful information that I can train people on. Maybe your voice is the one that resonates with people the most, or maybe your blog post is the one that they'll see visible. So yeah, I wouldn't be scared about things. I know it seems like a really high bar to entry with a lot of these things. Like if I see like the calls for talks and so on, sometimes I go, oh, I've got to write an abstract, and just going, here's a practical demonstration of a debrief seems like it's such a basic thing for writing an abstract about. Yes. But maybe that'll be helpful to people. So yeah, don't be afraid of doing that, I guess. And that's why I'm trying to do more of it and put myself out there with it. So I say, if you've got practical experience in something, if you can help people, do it. Put yourself out there, because it will help someone. Like that old thing of going, oh, no question stupid, it will help someone. Writing about something might be the way that they get into it, or they see about it, or start to learn about it. It might be the thing that clicks for them. So definitely do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you personally are a fantastic example of someone who just like has gone past that imposter syndrome and because clearly you know your stuff, right? You do know your stuff. I've worked with you. I know that you know your stuff, and you're very good at what you do. And having that bravery to put stuff out there, and if it inspires at least one person, that's good enough, right? And if it could be, to your point, where it could be just the thing that changes someone's career. It sends them down a different route where they're like, I hadn't thought of it like that. Like I can't pinpoint exactly what it was that really got me into exploratory testing, but I know there's certain points where I'm like, this is kind of what I've been doing. Oh, now someone's written about it. I can start to formalize this stuff and actually kind of, this is the approach I can now start to identify with that I've been taking for this time. I just didn't quite know how to articulate it. And that was probably off a couple of blog posts and perhaps a video that I can think of. So yeah, I think we, you and I have been sharing content for a while, and I think it's our role to encourage others to get involved, and perhaps the opportunity for you and I is to collaborate with those people who perhaps are worried about putting something out there that they feel people just go, oh yeah, everybody knows that. But I'm like, do it, like start writing and sharing, and if anything, that process of writing is a great learning experience for an individual, for ourselves. And I've certainly noticed that the more I kind of end up sharing, the more I have to learn in the process. And then the more I share, the more I learn, because I get feedback on like, was that useful, or that didn't make sense, or it'd be good to know about that. Oh, okay. So it just kind of, it's really powerful to put stuff out there, just to be a little bit brave, and it does take courage. So I think we can continue to lift each other up and encourage each other to be a bit brave to put stuff out there. Because if I would say the community is good at looking out for people, and if there are some people who are like, oh, you've got it wrong, or I've been talking about that for ages, then we can support those who might be on the receiving end and really support those individuals. Because I think there are some strong voices out there that may stop people from wanting to do that.
Very much so. I can't agree with that more. I got into sharing stuff because people who had more experience at doing that took me under their wing and helped me initially with this. So I would say, if you're somebody who does blog a lot, if you feel confident in things, build people up. Yes. I would be really interested in collaborating with people who don't blog very often, or if they've got ideas and want support, or want to know how to do public speaking, or just practice it, or even just pair with me to do a talk about something we're both interested in. That would be great, because I think it's something that is in my wheelhouse, but I'd like to help other people at this point. And I think that's why community is and community management is quite important, to help pair people together, to say, here's somebody who knows about this, who's good at speaking, maybe talk to them and work with them, and they can show you how to do these things. So yeah, definitely.
That's great. Callum, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. I think it looks like we may have come to the end of our time today. But thank you so much. You're an awesome person, right? And I say that openly. You are awesome, and the stuff you share is fantastic. And the way that you encourage others to do the same is wonderful. And the way you educate people and share your experiences is fantastic. And it certainly inspires a whole bunch of people. And I know it will continue to inspire more people to have the confidence to get out there and to share and to really demonstrate on a practical level the good things that can come from good exploratory testing. Thank you very much for your time in the chat.
Thank you so much. And right back at you. I mean, yes, inspirational. I will say, because I didn't mention it earlier, if you're interested in charisma testing, if you look up Ricard Egren's blog, The TestBuddy, That's where you can find out more about charisma testing. That's where I learned it originally. I just wanted to make sure I gave out props. I didn't invent the concept at all. I'm just parroting it back. So yes.
Awesome. That's great, Callum. And yeah, let's find an opportunity to chat soon. But in the meantime, yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll speak with you soon.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. If you found that interesting, do go ahead and like the video, and feel free to subscribe and share. We'll see you next time, and keep exploring.